Hello and welcome back to Tobacco Broad. My name's Gareth Parsons, joined by Aiden Moore. We've got some college basketball going on for you today. We got obviously just local Tobacco Road results, and then bubble talk. Who we have in, who we have out, possibly some MMA in there, but we'll let you know. So
Absolutely,
stay tuned.
absolutely. Can't wait to break down UFC 313. Can't wait to get into these basketball bits. Also, maybe a little bit of a baseball analysis. All I gotta say, UNC remains undefeated, and they're continuing their winning ways. But let's just jump into this episode, starting off with basketball. Gareth, I don't know. Like, I know it's been a little bit different for state, but right now, there's just a feeling in the air for me. An amazing feeling in the air right now. UNC is starting to click right now, and it's starting to fire on all cylinders. We doubted ourselves. People doubted us, but right now we're on a 6 game win streak right now. Granted, that's partly kind of to do to like a really weak latter half of schedule, not gonna lie. But wins are wins, and UNC's been pulling some consistent like 80 to over 90-point games lately. The offense is firing on all cylinders. Uh, RJ Davis has been doing good with field goal percentage, shooting at 40%. His points per game has gone up. Really starting to take into his leader role, and I feel like he's been playing with a lot more ambition as of late. He knows this is basically his last run, and like I don't like his chances. Well, I don't want to say that. I want to like he knows that this is probably going to be the most high profile basketball that he's going to be playing for a while, and he's just giving it all out, laying it all out on the court, and I've really been liking his style of play. Jackson's also been shooting good. Overall, just really solid play over all around. I saw a statistic that like this is the first time in like almost forever that there are like 5 players that are consistently uh, averaging over like 10 points over like the past couple games. And that's something that's pretty impressive. UNC just kind of on a continuous win streak, and I'm excited to see how they're going to be performing against Duke this weekend. But we can get into that a little bit later. They are on the bubble right now, and that's probably going to be something that we're going to discuss a little bit later. But Gareth, what do you have to say about NC State and their performance as their style of play as of late?
Well, the weekend wasn't pretty. They got blown out at Georgia Tech. They didn't really look like they wanted to be there. It's kind of been the story of like the away games towards the latter half of the season. I think Keats has lost the locker room when it comes to stuff like that. That's awful to say. I like Keats as a coach. I've got a deeper analysis of Keats that I'm not sure. I don't know if I'm going to offer it today. Or I'm going to offer it later and kind of like a season breakdown and recap. But as it comes for tonight, obviously it was a nice win over Pitt, a team that was slated to be as high as I think a 4 seed this year. NC State beat Pitt by I think night. Um, it was kind of a feel good win for the last home game of the season. All 71 points were scored by graduating seniors, so that's kind of a nice way to send them off. Unfortunately, I don't think any walk-ons got in, but we didn't have any walk-on seniors, so that kind of makes sense. Um, but when it comes to tonight, I mean, they looked good. Michael O'Connell had a nice send off. I know he's kind of had a down year, but he had 15 points, high career high of 3 made threes. Just kind of a general feel good. Ultimately, I just think if you look at the game statistically, NC State and Pitt, it was very similar, like similar percentage for field goals, similar percentage from free throw stripe, similar percentage from three. I just think it's that NC State got up a greater volume of shots than Pitt. That was the only real discrepancy between the two. Is Usually, if two teams shoot about the same percentage from the field, it's a close game. And usually it comes down to either who shot more free throws or who just shot a greater volume of shots. Because if you both shoot 40% from the field, but if one team took, 30 shots and the other team took 20, the team that took 30 is going to win. It'll be close, but the team that took 30 is going to win. But part of, I think, a lot of NC State's fans frustrate is this looks like a win that NC State would get in a year where they'd be closer to the tournament bubble or even in the tournament. Like, that was a solid home win. Like, there have been wins this year where this looks like, damn, this could have been a tournament team, but, those, what's it, fucking 9 single-digit losses? Like, that's a big difference. That's the difference between making the tournament and not making the ACC tournament, apparently. So, can't tell what I'm alluding to. Notre Dame won tonight, so that means NC State is out of the tournament. NC State still does have a game against Miami in Coral Gables, which, NC State teams when there's nothing to play for. Like, at this point, it wouldn't surprise. Oh, NC State teams when there's nothing to play for but bowl eligibility. God damn. I'm expecting out of this team, I'm expecting like an NBA level performance now. Now that there's nothing to come of the season, 2 times when the guaranteed NC State win. Keats' job on the line, and when there's nothing left to play for. NC State turns into the 90s Bulls, the prime Orlando Magic, whenever there's nothing to play for. Sorry, I just got the song stuck in my head.
Yeah.
But
yeah.
Expect a huge performance on Saturday. Now that there's nothing left to play for. I'm talking generational numbers. But, I will say this about Keats. I think Keats is a good college coach, but I think this NIL era is not as strong. Keats' best teams came when it came you could still transfer between schools, but there wasn't this portal with willy-nilly. He was at his best when you had guys for 3 and 4 years, when you could really develop guys into a system. I know a lot of NC State fans love to throw insults at Keats saying it's an AAU offense, but that would mean it'd be easy to understand for newcomers. I think the issue with Keats' offenses is it takes people a while to get into it. Like, for instance, DJ Burns. DJ Burns really came alive last year after being at NC State for 2 or 3 years. Yes, he had, in his first 2 years, yes, he had his moments. But that's college basketball. Regardless of whether you fit your offense or not in college basketball, just because of the nature of the sport, you're going to have your moments, even if you're at not a great fit. But if you saw how DJ Burns and Casey Morsell performed last year, among other people, that's really where we saw their payday, being with Keats after 2 and 3 years. Markel Johnson, his senior year, amazing senior year, almost got him drafted. But because he had been in Keats' system for years at that point. But in this NIL era where people can come and go as they please, I just don't think it suits him. Also, Keats, when it comes to high school recruiting, can get elite talent. He gets elite talent recruiting. Terquavian Smith, Darian Sebron, both NBA first-round picks. Who else? He's been decent in the portal too, but I think like I said, his main struggles are the portal. We've got some of the highest recruits in North Carolina coming to NC State next year. He cleans up in recruiting. Paul McNeil, our standout 4-star freshman, one of the best people in North Carolina. I just think the portal is where he struggles, and he's kind of beat around the bush with that, but I don't think he wants to out and admit that. He says that NIL and the portal has been our struggle and that we just don't have the funds for it. I think he's scared to admit he's not good at the portal. I don't think he believes in himself in the portal, because when it came to pickups we had in the portal this year, he was very conservative. Now, he could have had a plan, but I think for having been through a Final Four, I feel like with the people that, recruiting's very open nowadays. It's very apparent who you're pursuing. I feel like coming off of a Final Four, NC State could have been a bit more ambitious in who they went after. And that was not the case. I'm not saying they should have gone after Pop Isaacs, who played for Houston, and that Houston team who was ranked number 1 at one point. But what I am saying is they could have gone after some, higher profile names. Possibly, heck, And I'm a Providence fan, and I would have been furious at this. Try to get Bryce Hopkins. Who knows? NC State needed a shooter. Bryce Hopkins is a shooter. He's also good at rebounding. Another thing we struggle with. There were promising underclassmen everywhere in the Power Five, but instead we decided to go raid fucking Louisville. Like Louisville. Like, yes, did we take Louisville's only bright spot from last year? Yes. But
They seem to be doing pretty good, though.
Yeah, they seem to be doing pretty good. And Brandon Huntley Hatfield's been ass this year. Like, and I don't mean that as like a detriment, but like he hasn't adjusted well.
Yes, you do.
He doesn't really. He hasn't like. He hasn't. He is best when he is driving at the basket. But in Keats' style, the bigs a lot of times play with their backs to the basket. He is a big that needs to be facing towards the basket, taking, inside shots, layups, posting up, but somehow getting around to his front. Keats bigs, Middlebrooks is a perfect example. Middlebrooks can play with his back to the basket. Last year, Burns could play with his back to the basket. Hatfield cannot. That was not a good pickup in the portal. On the defensive end, yes, it was a good pickup, but in terms of our offensive production and what we need from our centers, that was not a good pickup in the portal. But, hindsight's 2020. But, I mean, that's all I'll offer as of late. I mean, NC State at home this year, if you just look at their home record, you think, man, this team's probably in the tournament. No, not at all. No. We've lost every single conference road game except for one. So, like I said, there's a lot of what ifs, and the frustrating thing about this NC State team is like there could have been a lot more, just had a few one possession games gone our way. Hell, had like 3 or 4 one possession games gone our way, we'd be 500. Had all of them gone our way, we'd probably be on the bubble and we'd be at like 20-10. But, not all those games are going to go your way. So, but I mean, that's all I'll say. Do I even want to touch on Providence right now after what just happened?
Touch on them, Garrett. Touch on them the way
I'll
DePaul touched on them.
What I'll say, I'll start with this. Providence fans are, as they are completely overreacting, underreacting, whatever you say. We've got people saying, Kim English is a victim. I don't think we're quite there. Some people are saying Kim English needs to get the fuck off the court. I also don't think that's the issue. Providence has been dealing with a lot of injuries this year. I mean, 4 out of our 5 starters have been hurt for some portion of the year. And then some of our kind of off-the-bench guys have been hurt as well. So we've been playing with true freshmen for a lot of the season. I'm a big proponent of college basketball. Is all about adaptability, and you can't just rely on one guy. A lot of Providence fans are upset, and they blame us doing bad this year on Bryce Hopkins being out. No. Last year proved that we can succeed without him. We were a bubble team last year, and we just, we can't complain for not making the tournament because, we didn't win the Big East tournament. But on a normal year, that Providence team would have been in. We had a record number of schools who weren't supposed to make it grab an automatic qualifier in the tournament, essentially taking up an at-large bid, giving it to the favorite in that conference. So in a normal year, I think last year's Providence team would have made the tournament at night. I think 20. They were either 20-10 or 21-10. In a normal year, I think a 21-10 college basketball team who is 500 and Power 5 play makes it. But this year's just, I think it's a combination of injuries, but then it's not just the injuries. There are a lot of Providence fans wailing, oh, it's the injuries. No, there's just a lack of effort on defense. There's a lot of ball watching. And yes, ball watching comes with freshmen, but it's not just the freshmen. It's established players just being lazy on defense. I've seen instances where another big's backing them down, and they just get out of the way and just let them have the basket. There's been just haphazard fouls 40 feet from the basket that you don't need to have. The shooting, oh my God. Bensley Joseph, the Miami transfer. Dude can't hit a layup. Like, I'm not going to name names on here because this individual is not in sports. Aiden's going to know exactly who I'm talking about when it comes to this. There's an individual I went to high school with. And for those of you who don't know, my high school at lunch, I wouldn't say it had recess, but our high school had basketball courts on campus right next to the building. So a lot of guys, because our high school wanted to make it like a college experience. So we had a full hour for lunch. So naturally, if you got a basketball court, The guys would go up there and play. Hell, even the teachers would go up there and play against us at lunch.
Yeah.
Good times, good times, good times. I'm sorry. Good times mostly. Getting plowed in the lane by Mr. Decker was not a great
I mean,
memory.
it's just the fact that we all had like we're wearing like suits though with, with like this
Wearing coats and ties, like running a
you
full-on flex offense.
like it was the shoes that was really pissing me off because like we had like them loafers kind of like I really wasn't able to like pivot or like really do my thing.
There were some days where people would go fucking barefoot or in the dress socks as well.
Mm,
That's nasty work. But
that's devious.
there's this
Continue.
one kid we called the layup legend. I'm talking this kid couldn't hit from anywhere. You could give him a free shot underneath the basket and he'd somehow bounce it off the underside of the rim. He wasn't money from anywhere. I'm not going to name names, but that's what Bensley Joseph is. He's a layup legend. I'm talking Providence is going to their drive and kicking. They're running that motion offense, that 4-1 motion, 4-1 out motion offense. And dude bounces so many layups off the underside of the damn rim. And it's not even like he's that short or got no hops. He just can't hit it. But then the problem is what gives him his confidence back is he hits this one logo three. Similar to this layup legend, he'd hit one shot and run around screaming, "I'm the American sniper. I'm the American sniper." I'm like, buddy, he dies in the end. just like your chances of hitting a shot, they're gone. You're done hitting shots. Like, dude would hit one shot.
Can you mute?
But no, yeah, it's these guys they just can't hit shots. Like some people on the Facebook page are like, we need a 3-point shooter. No, we just need a shooter in general. Like we need guys who can make a basket. I swear, there were times this season where, I mean, obviously every team goes to their scoring droughts. Like NC State had plenty of them this year where they'd get shots up, but they wouldn't score for 4 minutes. No, this Providence team, this is the first time I think I've seen this stat. Like, this is watching film in retrospect. I was at this game. Providence went 6 minutes without putting up a shot. A shot attempt. Not a scoring drought of 6 minutes. They went 6 minutes against Marquette on New Year's Eve without putting up a shot attempt. They had 8 turnovers in a 6-minute span. This team's just bad. And I know that's what you get with a lot of freshmen playing, but like, that's inexcusable at this point. There were times where they could barely dribble a ball. There were times where they could barely string 3 passes together. There were times where there were memes circulating, like that meme circulating about the Carolina basketball hosting tryouts. If you own a jersey, please show up. That meme was circulating around Providence.
Thanks for my jersey, Gareth.
That meme was circulating around Providence the entire time. Just like entire time. On all the Providence chat groups my girlfriend's talked about, it's like, if you're a man and you own a Providence basketball jersey, show up to Alumni Gym at Friday at 8 p.m. We're hosting tryouts. But I do think Kim English can turn it around. His basketball, his brand of basketball is fundamentally sound. They run obviously 4 out, 1 in motion offense, and it's all about they essentially. I want to call it a 4-1 out, but sometimes that extra wing sneaks in there. Bryce Hopkins, he can be a power forward, but he can also shoot the ball really well from behind the arc. So he kind of, steps in and out from behind the arc. He'll sometimes motion in to make it a 3-2. But the whole thing about Providence is it's trying to force double teams. That's the entire thing is. It hinges on having a really dominant big, and we did not have a really dominant big. We did not have a Josh Oduro in there. Oswin Arunse could be that guy, but we need to get him in the gym. Oswin Arunse is like 7 feet tall, like 7'5", but Mans gets bullied off the ball like it's no one's business. We need to get Oswin Arunse in the gym. We need to get Asanda. Asandako could have been that guy, but Asandako can't catch a ball. Like, no one on him back to the basket. Dude drops the ball at his feet. So, like, we need to get him to catch a ball, and we need to get Oswin Arunse to be able to bulk up a little. That's, I think, order of business number 1. Then we need guys who can just hit shots. Like, number 1, Jaden Pierre. I've defended you, buddy. You had a lightning in a bottle freshman season for Providence. and then you struggled shooting your sophomore year, which I defended you. You were taking great shots, and they just weren't falling. I felt bad. Like, I felt bad for the guy. There was one game in the Big East tournament where he figured it out, and I was like, me and the rest of the commentators in the booth. This is the last game I commentated. Providence ended up losing this, but I'm like, even though we lost, I felt good for him. It finally was falling, and then we missed the turn. Like, maybe. Then he had a big game. I know I know Boston College beat Providence in this NIT game, but Jaden Pierre had an amazing game. Like, I sincerely hope he takes this momentum into the next year and it gives him the confidence, because you could kind of tell the confidence just wasn't there that year. The confidence just wasn't there last year. But then this year rolls around and he was really inconsistent. There were some nights he dropped 20, but then there were some nights where it's like he'd have like 4 points, but it wasn't like he was contributing in other ways. He was just kind of there. I think in order for Providence to have a good season next year, like I said, they need to get Asonico, teach him how to catch a ball and hit a shot. Asu Narunse, put 30 pounds on that man. Jaden Pierre, you need to be consistent, buddy. And then from there, I think Providence needs to clean up in the portal. This portal class was kind of a swing and a miss. We need shooters. I know we've got some decent freshmen coming in. I think we need to continue to develop Brian Mila. Eli Delorier, good spots, great flashes this season. We need to continue to develop him. Other people, like I said, we need to continue to develop these freshmen that we had to play this year. Obviously, Rich Barron, I don't know what's been going on. He's been hurt this year. Either the trainers need to figure it out or something, or the team needs to figure it out, or I don't know if he's just injury prone. I don't know who needs to figure out what, but we need to figure out how to keep Rich Barron out of injury. Corey Floyd, I think he has one more year. He's going to be key. He just needs to figure out how to contribute in a meaningful way. Last year when Bryce Hopkins went out, Devin Carter obviously stepped up and became our leading scorer. But Corey Floyd last year really took it upon himself to become, that second scoring option if Oduro wasn't hitting. If Oduro and other people like Ticket Gaines, shots weren't falling, he stepped up. One game I can think of last year is the Butler game. Providence ended up losing, but Devin Carter was hurt for this game. So Providence's two scoring options went out. Corey Floyd legacy game. Corey Floyd legacy game had like 28 points, had a shot at the buzzer, not fall, but controversial no call. Big East has come out and said that should have been a foul, so no harm, no foul there. But Providence has got to have people that step up. Providence and NC State had very similar issues. They didn't have someone who could just take over when they needed. So that's all I'll say for Providence. Providence has the 8 seed locked up for the Big East tournament, so they'll be playing, I think. I don't think it's locked up who they'll be playing. I think it's between DePaul and Georgetown, but I think Georgetown is the
Daddy DePaul. DePaul's your daddy now.
I don't know. We did win on the road against him by like 8, so the tiebreaker.
I'm hopping on that DePaul bandwagon, baby.
Oh yeah, DePaul bandwagon. But I think that's all I'll say for Providence. Do we want to move into bubble watch now and like our tournament talks, or do we want to move into perspective matchups and breakdowns of other stuff around?
First, let's talk about like maybe some matchups that we saw already this week or this past weekend that we might want to bring up. Mainly, I want to kind of mention Auburn taking an L to Texas A&M. That was a surprising result, in my opinion. Did not expect Texas A&M to kind of bounce back in the way that they did. They were kind of a little bit on like a pretty tough streak for a while. Losing to Mississippi State, losing to Tennessee, losing to Vanderbilt, and losing at Florida. I didn't really have this one on my watch list, but Texas A&M able to come back and get a secure win against Auburn at home, securing the win by 9 points. This just kind of, for me, is showing how chaotic the SEC is. We have one team that was in the top 5 like a week ago, dropping almost completely out of the top 5. Top 25. and then coming back to beat the number one team in the nation. SEC is chaos right now, and I'm going to be keeping my eye on the SEC tournament play because Auburn's showing I'm very high on Auburn, but Auburn does have flaws, and if you're able to get the shots against them and get the rebounds, Auburn was not getting rebounds whatsoever. Only 25 rebounds compared to Texas A&M getting 41 rebounds, absolutely dominating the rebound game. That's where I kind of saw the biggest differential. Field goal percentage and 3-point percentage relatively the same, but it was the ability to score in the paint and the ability to get the rebounds and create after shot like missed shot attempts, like basically redemption shots is what really gave Texas A&M the edge here. So like kind of like revealing like the key to beat this top dog is just being the most physical team and being able to get those like necessary missed shot redemption opportunities. That was just one game that I thought was pretty important to bring up.
One,
Gareth, would you want to bring anything up right now?
I'll throw one in here. I have a few I want to look at, but I figured we could kind of popcorn and alternate here. This is kind of two games in one. It's the team I want to bring up is Vanderbilt. Vanderbilt had a very solid win over then ranked 14 Missouri, winning 97-93 in overtime. This is a Missouri team that's been hot. They're coming off a win over, not over recent, a recent win over Alabama, but in this win against Vanderbilt, Vanderbilt just found a way to get it done at home. Obviously, went to overtime. Chris Marin, obviously, he kind of just does it all for Vanderbilt. He can hit you in the paint. He gets you from out wide. He's a guard, but he can kind of score from all over. He's also able to get to the line very well, which is down the stretch as we get into March. The key for a player is if you can just, even if you're having an off night, if you can just get to the line, just generate opportunities to score points. Doesn't At this point, it doesn't matter how you're contributing points wise, as long as you can. If you have the most possible avenues to score points, I think you'll be a successful player, and I think he'll be down the stretch. It's just getting to the line and generating attempt, and that's what happened against Missouri. And honestly, what was kind of the deciding factor against between Missouri and Vanderbilt was just honestly getting to the line and rebounds. Vanderbilt out rebounded um, Missouri by about 11, and that's kind of the difference. Obviously, I know that I said Vanderbilt was better in the free throw shooting. Missouri did shoot more free throws than Vanderbilt, but Vanderbilt made a greater quantity. Vanderbilt was 21 for 24, while Missouri 28 for 35. You can't miss 7 free throws. That's the difference right there, along with rebounding and second chance. So then, kind of the flip side, last night, Vanderbilt took on Arkansas at home, and it was a back and forth affair. Arkansas was blowing them out at one point, but then Vanderbilt cut it to a one possession game. And then from there, Vanderbilt just kind of fell apart. The fundamentals just kind of went out the window. There was no rebounding. Kentucky, or not Kentucky, Arkansas was 3-point shooting was great all game. They were just kind of having their way, but then Vanderbilt, with about 6 minutes left, woke up, got it down to a one or two possession game, but then they just kind of fell apart again. It was just kind of the fundamentals. Everything they did to fight their way back into that game, they stopped doing. So, kind of a tale of two, or week of two games. Tale of two games for this week for Vanderbilt. Currently, I'll go over in depth later of whether I have them in. Currently, they're 20-10, 8-9 in the NCAA, or in just kind of overall, and sorry, 8-9 in the SEC, 20-10 overall. 8 and I will kind of go in depth on our thoughts with what we're gonna. 8 and I have developed what we think a kind of a function for how you get into the NCAA tournament, but we'll go over that later. We'll continue going over some games. In any other games you want to bring up?
I want to give a shout out to the BYU, able to secure the win on the road against Iowa State in double overtime. very impressive game by BYU. Once again, I've said it once and I'll say it again. Rebounds are the key to success. BYU getting 52 rebounds. That's big numbers that I like to see. That's how you secure opportunities for your team over and over and over again. Wasn't necessarily as happy to see the turnovers on BYU. Uh, Almost 30 turnovers. So ball security is definitely something that kind of needs to be looked at if you're BYU. But uh, I like BYU's ability to uh, um, get shots and, well, both get shots, miss shots, and ability to create space for the three. That's something that BYU's pretty good at, and uh, just really able to kind of secure uh, the clutch moments that kind of help them win the game. It was a close one with Iowa State. I'm pretty high on Iowa State, to be honest. The Big 12 is just, I'd say, like, I think it's the second best conference right now, in my opinion. I have like the SEC probably at one this year. I got the Big 12 at two. I got the ACC at my three. I'm sorry. I think the Big Ten's on fraud alert. I don't think the Big Ten is all that it's cracked up to be. I got the Big Ten at number four. I know that might get like I know I'm biased. I know I'm biased when I say this, but Big Ten's a little bit overrated in my mind, and then I'll put the Big East at five. That's my conference rankings right there. That was a little side tangent, but I just wanted to give a shout out to BYU. BYU rocking in at fourth place in the Big 12. Love to see how they would do in their conference tournament. Love to see how a lot of these teams are going to fare up. We got a really stacked conference that's gearing up for like an amazing round of conference tournament play. I'm excited to see how Houston, Texas Tech, uh, Arizona are going to do. They're obviously the top dogs, but I'm obviously kind of excited to see teams like West Virginia and TCU that are a little more iffy, rocking in at 9 and 10 in conference play. But teams like West Virginia can like really turn it on in an instant. Pretty strong all around, and just a strong overall conference that I think I'm excited to see how they're going to fare in these next coming days of March.
Definitely. And one further thing on the BYU point, BYU is really a team that's kind of turned it around this year. They were really struggling towards the middle point of this year. I feel like they were a really one-dimensional team, but one thing that you mentioned is they've been able to kind of diversify. Used to they were just kind of a run and gun, fly by the seat of their pants, 3-point shooting team. But in that win over, like you said, over Iowa State, they were really able to get inside, get points in the paint, and they just were kind of able to bully their way in.
Mm-hmm.
But this BYU team is a tale of two halves of a season.
Yes.
One thing I've heard talked about is what used to be a stat in when talking about the NCAA tournament, because the NCAA tournaments, a lot of it's for the bubbles. Who's hot right now? There used to be a statistic that they use, an actual metric called your last 10 games. It was not just your record, but how you played in the last 10 games. If that was still a statistic, BYU would be ranked number 2 in the nation when it comes to last 10 games of strength of schedule and record. But
Mm.
one thing that I think just puts the icing on the cake for this BYU team was who they lost to end 2023. They got absolutely throttled by a horrible Providence team. They lost by 21 to Providence. Like, they looked like not even an NIT team. That game was where I thought Providence's season was going to turn around. Providence just absolutely dominated them in every aspect. Like, it wasn't even close. Like do you know the last time that game was close was like 5 minutes into it? Providence had like a double-digit lead from about the 5-minute mark, from about the 15-minute mark in the first half, and like just didn't look back. But other games, there was a lot that went down today. Um, One team that we brought up that just continues to slide is Alabama. Alabama lost at home to Florida by 5. It was just, I know Alabama's a lock for the tournament. Mark Sears obviously dropping 30, but it wasn't enough. Alex Condon of Florida, the sophomore, dropped 27 points. He's been playing phenomenal. He grabbed 10 rebounds, 1 assist, 30 minutes. Nice double-double there for Alex Condon. I didn't get to watch because I was watching the game. Just kind of looking at it here, I think the main difference here was turnover. Not turnovers, it was rebounds. Florida grabbed 50 rebounds tonight. That's almost unheard of. Like that's insane.
I don't know. BYU got 51.
You got 50. Alabama did outshoot Florida, but I think it's just the second chance points here that really did it for Florida. Being able to grab 50 rebounds. I know BYU got 50, but 50 and 51, that's unheard of. That's if you're out rebounding the opposing team, getting 50, that's just the icing on the cake. One game I like to touch on before sending it back to you, Aiden, is Maryland, Michigan. Michigan, kind of a team that's, been looked at as good. They're kind of bouncing back as of late, but Maryland's kind of had some heartbreaking losses at home, but they've been able to bounce back. They bounced back in a big way. 6-point road win, not just a road conference win, but a road ranked conference win. I think this really boosts Maryland's resume for them. For me, this honestly, this might even bump them up to a 3 seed. Not quite a 2 seed yet, but right now they're on the 4 seed line. Honestly, for me, like I said, that brings them up to a 2 seed. This Maryland team, obviously, Michigan kind of came back at the end. Maryland was able to separate themselves, or excuse me, Maryland was able to separate themselves by about as much as 10 points, but then obviously Michigan brought it back closer at the end. So, but ultimately it was, I think the difference here was just the turnovers. Michigan had 16 turnovers, while Maryland had half that. So turnovers are what lose you games. Ultimately, down the stretch, and I'll touch on this later in the video, I think March Madness and the end, once you get into the tournaments, who can do the little things right. It's not about the teams. Obviously, UConn won back-to-back. They've got a really complex offense. But for a lot of the teams that I saw that saw success in March Madness last year was teams that just simplified their game. Just what can we control? That's what NC State last year. Literally, Kevin Keith came out and said all we did was simplify the offense. We simplified the offense and did, hey, what can we control? We toned down the turnovers and just, we just said, hey, let's pass the ball more. Let's stop, taking the first shot that's available. Let's find the best shot possible. I think March Madness is all about keeping it simple. And one of those ways is limiting turnovers. That's something that Maryland does, is they limit turnovers. So Maryland is another team that I'd say look out for going into March.
One game that I do want to bring up is Ole Miss versus Tennessee. Ole Miss fell out of the top 25. Looked like they were going to be they just kind of looked sliding, in my opinion. Tough loss to Mississippi State, at Vanderbilt, at Auburn, just not looking good. Getting a turnaround win against Oklahoma, but a statement win against Tennessee. Ole Miss kind of trying to put themselves back in a little bit of a driver's seat position. They were able to eke out the win against Tennessee by 2 points. Overall, I think the real, statistically, both of these teams were performing at a pretty similar level, similar field goal percentage. Tennessee was getting more 3 points off of percentage, similar turnovers, similar rebounds. Really, nothing really sticks out to me. But what sticks out to me, when I was watching this game, was just Ole Miss' ability to respond to Tennessee. They were able to keep up. They were able to not let the moment get too big for them. There was Like at one moment, at halftime, uh, Tennessee was up like by a little bit, just by like 5 points, but Tennessee started off the second half like pretty strong, and win probability had them like at an 80% chance of winning. That's what the analytics are saying. But Ole Miss was able to keep the composure and keep pace. They were able to secure these like short little runs, like just kind of like making sure that Tennessee never got too far out of reach to where once it got into clutch time, Ole Miss was able to capitalize off the mistakes. And that's what I think was the real determining factor of this victory. It was Ole Miss able to not let the moment be too big for them, not letting the past mistakes that they have made over like bearing themselves on the current moment, which is why I'm like pretty high on Ole Miss after this win. Like is a very solid win. I'm not necessarily sure how I think they're going to perform against Florida because Florida is a whole different level. Well, not a whole different level. No, Florida is still a very tough team, especially considering the fact they're going to Florida. But if I'm a Tennessee fan, I'm not too nervous about this loss. I mean, if you're Tennessee, you've been on a like pretty great run over these past couple of games, like getting a solid win at Texas A&M, at LSU, and against Alabama. I'm not necessarily hanging my head on this Ole Miss loss. It's getting to the end of the season. Conference tournament play is about to come up. I think Tennessee's going to be like making it up big time. Not even the fact, like I don't even need to think they even need to make it up right now, just because like I believe most people have like consensus they are a at least a first or second seed lock. But another game that I think is probably really important to talk about, mainly, I think Gareth would probably really want to talk about it. I want to kind of go more in depth on the Marquette UConn game. UConn able to get a pretty like solid win against Marquette. Um, I know Gareth was saying like in this like most like recent episode, I remember him saying that he had Georgetown beating UConn. He had like I think you might have even predicted that Providence was gonna beat UConn, but UConn's still like they're good. Like they're continuing like their winning ways. I think this Marquette wins like pretty uh, did numbers for them. I think it was like first off, I think St. John's has UConn's number. I just think St. John's is a superior uh, Big East school, but that doesn't mean I think UConn's like absolutely horrible. They're able to really like get the rebounds, 44 rebounds in this game, able to kind of like score and get those second chance points is really what kind of saved them in this one. And for Marquette, the 3 points just weren't landing this one, only shooting 13% at 3 point. While UConn was shooting for 35%, like that was just a like recipe for kind of disaster right there. When it comes to field goal percentage, these two teams were even, but UConn's ability to really capitalize on the three and get those second chance opportunities is really what kind of differentiated UConn from Marquette in this game. And I think if I'm a UConn fan, I'm pretty confident going into Big East Conference play. Granted, I think St. John's has your number, but I don't think it's like absolutely like lost for you. Like UConn still definitely has the potential to make a very solid run if they're able to continue to show this dominance that they have when it comes to rebounds and being consistent with their three.
Yeah, I think this game was just this is more of a Marquette loss. I think if you're a Marquette fan, there's still a lot to be like. Obviously, it's a loss. Like you lost the 3 seed in the Big East tournament to UConn now. But looking at this game, I think if you're a Marquette fan, there's a lot to not okay with, but like you showed tonight on a night where the 3 was. This is probably a historic low for Marquette from beyond the 3-point line.
Yeah.
Marquette and like recently with their 5-out offense, they've relied on the ability to shoot the 3, wide open threes that they scheme, or even just contested threes. Some of the games last year where I thought, there was one game last year where I thought Providence really had Marquette's number. It was in the tournament last year. Marquette really didn't have any size inside. Providence just went inside all night, all night. But it was Marquette's ability to hit contested threes with hands in their face that was able to push them over the edge. That was not the case tonight. But what I will say that should give Marquette fans something to be some silver lining to be excited about was Marquette was still able to find a way to keep pace with UConn without the 3-point falling. Marquette was able to get 42 points in the paint, which that's not some UConn does not give up that number of points in the paint very often. If you're able to catch UConn again and the three's able to be and the rim's able to be a little bit more friendly towards your 3-point shooting, I think Marquette gets them. They were able to stay pretty even kill. I think on a normal night Marquette wins this, but I mean, good job with UConn. UConn's kind of figured it out. They went through kind of a slump in that kind of middle third of the season. That first third of the season, obviously, you're playing cupcakes. Kind of that end of that first third, beginning of the second third of the season was not very kind of them. Obviously, Dayton getting swept by St. John's. Obviously, other games where UConn just went. I think they went 0 for 4 in Maui, just in that kind of like into first third, beginning of second third. But UConn's figured it out. They've gotten their feet under them. But I think from now they've got the 3 seed locked up. UConn looking good to make the Big East tournament. But like you said, I think obviously what it came down to tonight was Marquette's ability to shoot, their inability to shoot shoot the three, going like you said, 14%. They went a staggering 3 for 22. They only hit 3 threes all night. But then also, I think it's the rebounding. Marquette's another team where it's like they're really streaky with rebounding. With the style of offense you play, like especially playing that 5-out, rebounding's kind of hard when all your guys are on the fucking perimeter. So at that point, you're kind of banking on making the first shot you hit. So, like I said, that's kind of like the pick your poison with the 5-out that I've been talking about all season. When I said I think Marquette's beatable, is they give up a lot of the fundamental stuff in favor of hitting contested threes. But like I said, that's not the case tonight. They found a way to get into the paint and score points effectively. So got to give it to them there. But that's really all I have for that game. I think UConn caught them on an off night, so I think it was perfect storm. Early had them. So trying to see if there's another game I want to mention from tonight. I think that's really all that happened tonight in terms of bigger games. Oh, wait, there's one thing I will mention. Oklahoma getting the dominant home win over Missouri. Oklahoma kind of a bubble team. For me, I don't think this really. We'll get into this when Aiden and I get to our bubble talk. Obviously, after the games we want to highlight. But obviously, Mizzou continuing to slide. But road conference games, particularly if you're a ranked team, are difficult because you're getting everyone's A game. Like regardless of how bad a team's season is, that stadium's gonna be sold out. Like unless you're Miami, that like it doesn't matter if NC State's having an off year. If a ranked conference opponent comes to town, the Lenovo Center is going to be sold out. So that's the case. I mean, Oklahoma, they are still passionate about their basketball. I think the big difference here was Oklahoma just outshot them. Oklahoma was almost 60% from the field, where Missouri shot 46% from the field, that's still a good day from the field. 46.7%. That's still a good day. It's just, I think Oklahoma shooting 41% from behind the arc, which is just phenomenal, to Mizzou's 29, which is below the national average. I think any night you're shooting below 33% from behind the arc, you're just asking for trouble. So, and any day you really shoot, I think, not that Mizzou did this, any day you shoot below like 44%, you're just kind of asking for trouble. So that's all I will say. So I guess from now we'll move on to matchups we're looking forward to the rest of this week. Aiden, you have any particular matchups that you want to highlight going into the weekend? I know, obviously, the Tobacco Road one obviously takes precedence, that being the big one on Saturday. So
The horse is ready for battle. But victory. Victory comes from the Lord. It's time. I'm tired of this. I'm tired of the narratives. I'm tired of Joe Lenardi's always keeping us on the first team out lists. I'm tired of this. It's time, if you're UNC, it's time to put up right now. Backs against the wall. It's senior day right now. This is our last home game. This means something to me. This means something to all of us now. My last game. I'm not playing. Hell, I'm not even going. I didn't get a ticket. I'm going to be bouncing at a bar. But it means something to me. And when we win, I will be rushing Franklin.
Aiden's abandoning his post.
I'm abandoning my post. I told my boss this and he was like, Aiden, I understand. You know why he said he understand? Because we're at a 79.2% chance of losing. Matchup prediction does not believe in us. And I don't blame him. You know why? They got Cooper Flagg. This guy. This unit. Freaking dominates on like literally everything. He is Duke basketball. Leading the team in points, leading the team in rebounds, leading the team in assists. Man, he is almost on the verge of, like, if he got his assists up, he'd be almost at a, like, getting closer to, like, triple-double numbers every night. It's not looking good. I ain't gonna lie. You know? Yeah, this team is better on paper. Yeah, this team beat our ass. Yeah, this team is the number one team in the ACC, arguably the number one team in the nation because they beat Auburn, and Auburn already lost. But you know what? It's a rivalry game. It's a game where legends are made, and this is a game where legends need to be made at the Dean Smith Center. When we're popping off at the Dean Smith Center, there's no other spot in college basketball that can compare. I don't know why they're thinking of trying to move it like that. That's a war crime in my mind, but that's a conversation for another day. But you got to put up or shut up right now. Throw out your 6-game win streak that you got, mainly because we kind of beat up on a bunch of like bottom feeders from the ACC. I'm not going to lie, but we had some good wins in there. Syracuse and FSU, those are good wins. I will hang my hat on those. Those are good wins. You got to throw all that out, though, because it doesn't matter anymore. All that matters is this game in this moment right now. So give me UNC to win this. Upset. Beat the odds on senior day. We're going to be rushing Franklin. I'm going to be filming it. I'm going to abandon my post.
Aiden's going to drink on the job.
No, I'm not.
Sorry, we'll cut that. Sorry. You can't say that.
Yeah, no. I mean, we can say that, like, but no, I'm not going to drink on the job. But I am going to abandon my post for about 10 minutes. I was given that. If we win,
Can I offer my brutally honest opinion? But I don't think it's going to go in the direction you think it is.
yes.
I think you're going to be gone a little longer than 10 minutes. If you rush Franklin Street, I don't think you're getting back to Pantan and Bob's in the time frame you think you are.
Bro, I'm efficient.
I'm not doubting you. I'm just saying.
Bro, I'm efficient.
I'm just saying. When Providence won a Big East title, our bus couldn't get back on campus. And we were in a fucking bus. But obviously, big game. Rivalry games, you kind of have to throw everything out the window. Duke has had some scares on the road. Hell, Duke's had some scares at home against some really bad teams this season. Hell, I'm still salty about that state game with some of the calls down the stretch. I thought we could have gotten them that night. But what I will say is UNC needs to look particularly at those state and Wake Forest games against Duke and look at what NC State did and Wake Forest did defensively just with how they played Cooper Flag. And essentially were able to hold them in check for 3/4 of the game. Because the first time, I think the main issue the first time State or Carolina and Duke played was just the ability to contain Duke's offense. I don't think it was Carolina's offense. I think the issue was Carolina's defense and not being able to contain Duke. I think with the home crowd behind you, obviously that's a natural boost to the defense and the offense. But I think Carolina's not going to. Advice that I think the Providence coach always gives the Providence team before a home game against a ranked opponent, particularly a rival, is don't play for the student section. And he goes, I know that sounds weird, but he's like, do not play for the student section's reaction. Like I said, there's not a lot of defense, and I think NC State's going to be able to take advantage of that. NC State has been struggling offensively, but we've got the players who, like I said, when they're not there, when the scoring's not there, it's kind of hard to find that kind of go-to guy, and it kind of comes from everywhere. But I think down the stretch, we've kind of figured out we found guys for the future who can be that and be what we need to be. But I don't know. Obviously, I think NC State's going to win. I do see, I have had NC State teams where it's like a surefire thing that they're going to win, and they haven't. But I think State's got Miami here, and it's just like I said. I think it would be a nice way to finish off the season. Obviously, with being eliminated from the ACC tournament, give these seniors a nice send off. Heats. Go out there, pull the bag of tricks out like you did in the NCAA tournament. Pull everything out of the bag. I'm talking optimal lineups. Just no games, no mind games with the lineup. Just put out the fucking lineup that's worked. Use the lineup you've used the last 3 home games that have worked. Don't know why you haven't used that in the road games. Just use the home lineups for God's sake and just finish out the season. Like I mentioned earlier, Miami allows 81 points a game. That is the most of anyone in the ACC. Go out there and just dominate. I'm talking, don't feel bad for them. Don't feel bad that they're not just one of the worst Power 5 teams, but they're one of the worst teams in the nation. Just go out there, pedal to the gas. I'm talking like unspeakable war crimes. Do it to them. Unspeakable things.
Miami was the only team that I was okay trying jinxing when I was predicting, when I was talking about UNC basketball to either people I work with or just on the job where I make conversation with the people in line. That was the one time where I was I literally said, it's Miami. I mean, God love them, but it is just not their year right now. And NC State, you got to pull out the bag of tricks. You got to pull out everything. Pull out every single weird play that, you have. You know what? It's away, right?
Yeah, it's away. Miami. It's in Coral Gables.
You know what?
Average ticket price is $2. Well, no one goes to Miami basketball. No one goes to Miami basketball games. Even when they're good, the stadium's empty. No one goes because it's almost an hour from the campus.
But I'm gonna give some reverse advice. Play for the student section in this game. Nah, legit do. Nobody's
play for the student sections then. There might be more NC State fans in the building than Miami at this game.
Yeah, play for them. Take the weird shot.
Just do it.
Literally do it. Do something, please.
Shoot between your legs. Who cares?
Do a granny style 3-point. I don't care.
Make the Sports Center top 20 for all I care. Be as disrespectful as possible. Nah, but in all seriousness, I got NC State. Um, Providence. This is probably bad of me to say. It's not happening. Like Xavier, I believe Xavier stomped us the last time we played them at home. We made it close in the end, but Xavier's on the bubble and they've got stuff to prove. I mean, they recently just had a decent road win over Butler. They absolutely smoked Creighton at home. Xavier's hot. Xavier's red hot right now. Like Xavier's the one team in the Big East I wouldn't want to be playing right now. So I think this could get ugly really fast, particularly with how Providence is playing. Who knows? Every time I say this, they jump up and surprise me, and Providence plays the team really close. But I think this Sean Miller has this team up and running. I think Zach Fremantle just he's shooting 50% from the field, so I think Xavier's going to kind of run away with this one. I think I've got Xavier. And Xavier's flamed every team they've played in the last month. I don't think there's been a game within 10 points. So I've got Xavier in this one. I'm not optimistic. Like, obviously, being a Providence fan, I want them to win, but I think we're going to get absolutely something. Not gonna be fun. Any games in particular you want to highlight after the Carolina game? I mean, obviously, there's the. I think there's a matchup that is College Game Day going to UNC Duke.
Yes.
Okay. Doesn't say if it wasn't going to UNC Duke, it's definitely going to this one in,
Ow.
I believe, Madison, Wisconsin, or Milwaukee.
Oh,
I'd
hang
be,
on.
but no. Is there a game you want to highlight first?
I wanted to highlight the Iron Bowl basketball 2.0. We got Alabama versus Auburn at 2:30. I'm pretty excited for this game. I mean, Auburn's going to be at home. I think it like for Auburn, this is going to be uh, a nice potential for a good bounce back against like where they lost against Texas A&M. Alabama, like the narratives, they've been sliding a little bit. Lost to Florida, lost to Tennessee, got a good win against Mississippi State and Kentucky, but also a loss to a Mizzou team that has been sliding to say the least. So this is going to be a narratives game, a game that kind of like is going to imply what type of team you're going to be in the month of March. Are you a team that's going to step up to the occasion, or are you a team that's going to let narratives and let the past affect how you perform in the present? When you're a team, you always got to realize that the windshield's bigger than a real rear view mirror for a reason. That's because you always got to be looking forward and to the person that is right in front of you right now. And when I look at Auburn, I see somebody that it plays for the moment and plays for their destiny. They're a team that is always looking forward. They're a team that is not only looking forward, but they are looking to the present. They're the windshield to Alabama's rear view mirror. Sometimes I feel like they be caught up in these narratives of sliding a little bit, and that causes them to slide a little bit more. Things like being Auburn's like little brother when it comes to basketball. Like these things that kind of have caused them to slide a little bit more, if you're catching what I'm saying. Because after that Auburn loss, they've just kind of haven't been able to bounce back towards that. So this could be a game where they kind of step up and realize, okay, we need to right our wrongs. But if they don't, I don't like their chance, like in the SEC tournament. When I look at Auburn, I see a team that is just always ready to play for the moment, which is why I got them winning this game at home.
Yeah, I can't disagree with you on this one. Auburn at home, Auburn dominated Alabama on the road. Alabama kind of made it close in the end, but like I said, I've got Auburn here. I just feel like, you know, they're coming off of a loss against Texas A&M. They're going to be rearing and ready to go. I know Alabama's sliding, but this is an Alabama team that we've seen been like, a rumored 1 seed, but then they slide it in the season. They kind of figured out in the SEC championship. They win a few games in March, but then they ultimately kind of fizzle out unimpressively. They'll make it far, but then they'll get to this, they'll get to the narrative, the game that's going to make or break their tournament, and then they lose. So, like I said, I think Alabama's going to continue their slide. That's just kind of what always happens. So, like Aiden always says, in terms of an upset happening in this game, I called my happening guy. He said nothing. So,
Nothing.
so moving on, this has honestly had the college game day not gone to the Duke Carolina game. I think it would be heading to Milwaukee, Wisconsin for the matchup between St. John's and Marquette. Matchup predictor, and the odds have Marquette here, but I've honestly got St. John's. I know Marquette kind of had a game where against UConn where the threes weren't falling in, and they kind of figured it out in the paint. I don't think that continues. I think Marquette, in order to beat St. John's, the threes are going to have to be falling. But I just think St. John's, they're too much. I know they don't shoot the three particularly well. They shoot a little bit below the national average. But in my opinion, they're just such a good team defensively. Marquette, a team like Marquette preys on teams that run man-to-man defense, but not this St. John's defense. This St. John's plays a disciplined man-to-man defense, and they're able to stop you when you need a bucket. The thing about Marquette's 5-out offense with the constant motion is it's even in games they lose, in 90% of the scenarios where they needed a bucket, they're able to get it. But that was not the case the last time Marquette played St. John's. And I know you're saying this is at home. This is in Milwaukee. This is for Marquette. This is their senior day. And the last game, it was technically at St. John's, but it was in MSG. MSG is historically not very kind to St. John's. I know they've kind of turned that narrative around this year, but in terms of historically speaking, most ranked games, St. John's a lot of times will try and play their ranked games in MSG, bigger student section, bigger crowd, but MSG hasn't been kind to St. John's recently. The games have been a lot closer there than at their normal home stadium. So, honestly, I've got St. John's. They just play fundamentally sound basketball. They take high percentage shots. And even when they kick it out to shoot the three, they shoot it pretty well considering how few times they shoot the ball. So, for me, I've got St. John's. I think this is going to be a big one. I think the Mafia Don himself is going to finish it out. I think, in order to give St. John's that little bit more luck, I don't want the effect to wear off of it happening too much, but I think they need one final good luck charm. I think Patino needs to show up in the all-white suit yet again. So I think I've got St. John's in this one. It's going to be a close one. Don't get me wrong. I do think Marquette's going to show out, but I think, this Marquette team's not the Marquette team of last year. I think, they're missing several key factors of this team. Obviously, Tyler Kolek, but, somehow that NC State team could shut down Tyler Kolek. Maybe he's not that great of a player. So, but like I said, Marquette's missing a lot of pieces from last year, and I just think, I don't know. It depends if the three-point shooting woes continue, but honestly, I've got St. John's. Even when the threes are falling, I've got the Red Storm in this one.
Yeah, I got St. John's as well. I mean, they are just textbook efficient and textbook consistent. I fail to see really any real flaws with their game. They're just always consistent and always there. They're just old reliable, really able to secure rebounds and just play a vintage style of basketball that I feel like has adapted well to this style of Big East play and just modern present day college basketball. No real analysis for me other than I got to give it to St. John's.
Yeah, it's my favorite quote from Patino is, and I think this kind of embodies, everyone who is on that Patino coaching tree at Providence kind of plays the same way. I know Santa Clara is kind of, Herb Sendek's kind of branched out, and he does a very three-point shooting based style of strategy now, but I think Patino sums it up well. Particularly, I think this goes for any team in basketball, even good three-point shooting teams. if you can shoot well from the oh whoops oh whoops I accidentally changed the format. You were still up there. I didn't mean to do that. That was an
No,
accident.
you're good. You're good.
There we go.
There
Now
we
we're
go.
back. So I love Patino's quote because even on years where NC State shoots the three well, he embodies me. When they shoot from the field and behind the arc, I want to kill myself. You can look it up. Patino said that. When they his direct quote was, when they shoot from the free throw line and from the field, I want to kill myself. He literally said that in an interview, uncensored. So, moving on, another game that I honestly could have been, had an argument for game day is we are headed to Missouri between the Missouri Tigers and the Kentucky Wildcats. Match predictor has Missouri. I think this game's kind of a crapshoot. For me, obviously Kentucky coming off of a bad home loss to Auburn, and then kind of a get right game against LSU where they just kind of took all their anger out on LSU. For me, this Mizzou team's kind of on a slide. But I think they're going to rectify this. Their slide's been kind of limited to away games. But all four of their last losses, and then 5 of their last 6 losses have come on the road. Their only home loss being Texas A&M, very solid team. But I think they get right here. Obviously, the SEC's been an absolute crapshoot. But for me, I've got Mizzou. I like what they're doing. They've turned their basketball culture around. They didn't win a single SEC game last year. But again, they've turned it around. They're ranked in the top 15. I think, obviously, they'll have the home crowd. It's senior day. Emotions will be riding high. But I've got the Missouri Tigers in this.
I got to disagree with you. I got to go with Kentucky on this one. I mean, I know Mizzou seems to be only seems to slide when they're on the road, but for me, I just don't think that's as big as a factor as the fact, considering the fact that they are sliding right now, sliding against teams like OU and Vandy. Like, I just don't think that's necessarily a good look. And I just look at Kentucky as a team that's, I just feel like they're more consistent, have the better shooters, like tend to average, their season leaders tend to average more points and more rebounds. Statistically speaking, their players are in the just better side of the conference as compared to like Missouri, where they have some standouts, but just not as many as Kentucky. And for that reason, I got to give it to Kentucky.
One final game I will highlight on Saturday is this is a big one for people watching the bubble. Obviously, one of these teams is on the bubble, one of them's not. Mississippi State and Arkansas. Mississippi State, both Mississippi teams have been kind of bouncing in and out of the top 25, in and around there. Kind of, they'll drop out one week, drop back in. Just kind of depends. Kind of ebbs and flows. Honestly, kind of lines up with whether they have a home game or not, or whether they've got 2 home games in a week or not. So. But for me, this Arkansas team's been up and down and all around. They're currently on the bubble right now. I'll get into whether or not I think they should be in right now. But for me, I know Matchup Predictor has Arkansas at 54% at home. But for me, I know it's under John Calipari. He's a good coach, but they've just been too inconsistent for me. I mean, they've got some bad home losses. I mean, they've got some good road wins as well, but my issue is there's no shred of consistency with this team. They then took it to Auburn on the road, but I think that just deals with how kind of a loose cannon this team is. Obviously, they can turn it on in a big way. They beat Missouri at home. They beat a good Texas team at home, but then they drop a game to South Carolina where they lose by 19. But then they go on the road and beat, almost a lock for the NCAA tournament, Vanderbilt by 13. and they're just kind of up and down. And I think Mississippi State, they're just kind of consistent. They shoot the ball really well. I know a lot of Arkansas's guards also shoot the ball really well, but it's Mississippi State does the little things right. Their best rebounder averages almost 8 rebounds a game. They're great on the glass. They take smart shots. They spread the ball around. They have a high rate of assists per game, which in today's day and age of college basketball with these motion offenses isn't always, consistent. So they spread the ball around. They spread the love around. They do have consistent shooters. They can get someone where if they're struggling, they can get someone who will bring them out of it, like Josh Hubbard. But honestly, they do the little things right as well. So I'm going to give the edge here to Mississippi State. I know Arkansas is hot right now. They're hot and cold, but they're currently, look to have had a get-right game on the road against a Vanderbilt team that has been really hard to beat for certain teams. But I got to give this one to Mississippi State. I think Mississippi State's going to do this, and they're going to solidify their place and kind of their seed and their ranking within the Big East, or it's not Big East, the SEC tournament coming up. I think they're going to use this game to kind of almost they're going to use this game as an opportunity to jump Kentucky, given the chance. So
I like that analysis. I got to go with the Mississippi State as well. Just for me, I feel like Arkansas just is not that consistent. And I know never doubt Calipari, but that loss against South Carolina really kind of has me a little bit confused about what Arkansas's real identity is. And I just feel like with Mississippi State slide over the past couple games, I think like they're due for a get right game, and I think this game's going to be it. So I have to agree with your analysis.
Is there any other games you'd like to touch on, or should we just kind of touch on our bubble watch? Kind of
let's touch on the bubble
Gareth
watch.
and Aiden Palm. Should we start with the Gareth and Aiden Palm?
Absolutely.
All right. So over the past couple days, Aiden and I, on and off air, have been talking about, I think there needs to be more of a consistent, line for making the tournament. Obviously, It's going to ebb and flow with the year, depending on, some years are really strong bubbles, some years really weak bubbles. But Aiden and I have come up with one rule. I mean, we've got some other rules that we'll probably drop here and there when talking about the bubble watch that we have. But Aiden and I have kind of come to the consensus. We talked about on air last week. We think no matter what conference you're in, particularly, we think this is mainly a rule for the Power 5 that get at-large bids. You should not be getting an at-large bid. We don't care what conference. We don't care how competitive it is if you're not 500 or above. If you're one game short of 500 and you've got a good resume, okay. But when we're looking at teams like UGA, Arkansas, Texas, where they're 3, 4, and 5 games off of 500 in conference play, they really shouldn't be being considered unless they win the tournament. Now, a caveat we will add. If your conference tournament, if you win enough games in your conference tournament where if those games are put onto your conference record, it gets you close or near 500, okay. But if you're still below 500 after that, they got to be some quality wins in that tournament.
Mm-hmm.
Like, realistically, if you're not within one game of 500, if you're below it and you're not within one game, you really shouldn't be going. I think if you're a Power 5 team, in order to be good enough to make the tournament, you at least need to be able to go 500 in your conference play. If you are 500 in conference play, that means our reasoning for this is usually if you're 500 in conference play, that usually means you hold fast at home.
Yeah.
Win your home games, you lose your away games. I still think that's a little bit too lenient, but that means, usually if you're above 500 in conference play, you won all your home games, and then you're able to steal a few on the road. When our parents were growing up, that was the consensus for making the NCAA tournament for an at-large bid. If you won all your home conference games and then you were able to steal a few on the road, that's usually what got you into the tournament.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that's good. This is something that Aiden and I kind of came up with a benchmark, and we will honestly evaluate teams. Our bubble watch will honestly be based on this, in our opinion. And you could say, dang, that disproportionately affects the SEC. There's some years where this disproportionately affects the Big 12. There's some years where this would discriminate against the ACC. That's just how things are this year.
I
And
already
Big 12,
glazed the SEC by saying they're the best conference this year, so get off me.
so
I
obviously, being a Tobacco Road podcast, we'll start with the Tobacco Road teams. Obviously, you being a UNC fan, we'll start with UNC. Obviously,
absolutely in.
yeah, for me, I have them in. They're 13-6 in the ACC. They're currently sitting at the 4-5 seed line. They're looking at a bye in the conference championship. If you're a team and you're in a Power Five and you're looking at least a double bye in a Power Five conference, you should be in. I'm
I
sorry,
want
like
to see. I want to see them do like at least a couple ACC tournament wins, though, in my opinion.
yeah, I feel like if they drop an immediate like first round game, they might be sweating a little bit, but I think they'd still be in. Um,
Nah, if they
this
lose
team
to
is
Duke and they lose uh first like their first game of the tournament, I don't think they're in.
yeah,
They need to win either against Duke or win a game in the like two games in the tournament.
yeah,
That's what I think.
yeah. That's for me. I think they at least need. I think they need to win a few games in the tournament or beat Duke.
Yes.
Um, Up next, this is a team that Aiden and I have defended all season. It's kind of a team that hasn't really lived up to the hype. Um, they've beaten the teams they're supposed to, but then they've lost the games they've could have. They're kind of the definition of this team. I think in a normal year they'd be in, but with how strong other conferences are. However, I do think if our rules were implemented for the NCAA tournament, they'd be in.
Hmm.
But Wake Forest, you were told by experts you at least need to go 1-3 or 2-2 in your next stretch of 4 games. You've gone fucking 0-4. You've gone 0-4. Yes, you're 20-10, you're 12-7 in conference play. In a normal year, that would get you in. I want Wake Forest to be in, but I don't know if they can be in. I think Wake Forest needs to clutch up in the ACC tournament. I think they need to win 1 or 2 games in the ACC tournament to make it possible. Probably 3. I think 3 gets you over the line. For our logic, that'd put them at 15-7 in the conference. That would put them at 23-10 overall. Last week I said, if you're a team in any given year, I'm not going to put this in the Gareth and Aiden palm, but I think if you want a benchmark for making the tournament without winning your conference tournament, I think 23 wins is kind of your benchmark. If you hit 23 wins, you're going to be in. Because for NC State last year, going into the conference tournament, when they won 5 games in 5 days, what just so happened to be their win total? 23. If you win 23 games in a season, that means either A, you likely cleaned up in conference play. You at least cleaned up in conference play and won a few games in your conference tournament. That usually means you took care of your business. So 23 wins. UNC, obviously, resume wise, I think they do have less bad losses. But I think for UNC, if you're able to beat Duke and you win a few games in your conference tournament, that gets you to that 23 win mark.
Yeah.
Moving on, Xavier. Um,
Mm.
I currently have them in. They've got some really decent wins over some tournament teams. They've got wins over Creighton. I think they may even have a win over UConn this season. Let me fact check that. Saturday. The Big East, obviously, probably the weaker of the power conferences this year, but they still have some solid teams. Um, Let me have this pulled up. Xavier, they started the season ranked, but I wasn't necessarily high on them. Like I thought they were overrated to start the year. To start the year, I think they were ranked in the top 15, which is just absurd to me. That's just a no-no. Um, Let me look. They played Marquette really close on the road. Let me see. They've beaten Villanova. They beat Marquette on the road. They took St. John's to overtime. They've beaten UConn. Um, for me, I have them in. If you've beaten UConn, you've beaten Marquette, you've beaten Villanova, you beat a really good Creighton team. I think I have them in. Now, do I have them, do I have them not in a playing game? I don't know. I think for Xavier, I think they'll be an 11 seed in a play-in game. That's my take for them. If they're going to be in, I think they'll be 11 seed in a play-in game. But I honestly think they need to win at least one or two games in the Big East title to feel comfortable. I have them in right now, but I think if you don't win your first game in the Big East tournament, I think you're gonna be sweating a little on selection. So
Yeah, yeah,
that's my
yeah.
take on Xavier.
Yeah, that's my take. I mean, honestly, I think their resume is strong enough to where if they beat Providence, they should be in my opinion. But I would like to see that extra win. But honestly, like, I think they're good enough right now. I mean, just from what I've seen, they're on a streak right now, doing pretty good. Have some solid road wins on their resume. Beat another technical bubble team in Forest earlier this season. So, from my perspective, they're an in.
Moving on, I know you've led on how you felt about this team, and I want to hear you go a bit more in depth. Ohio State. Since our last video, when we talked about whether we have them in or not, they've got a confusing resume. They really do have a confusing. They've crept
Yes.
more towards that kind of benchmark of 9 and 10 in the Big Ten, but they're out of conference. They're out of conference record, and just kind of. Well, let me hear your thoughts on them. I'll let you explain your thoughts on that.
All right, so I'm just going to do a complete breakdown of like all Ohio State games that I think are important. A win against Texas. Texas, like at the time, Texas was 19. This was like a very big win. Starting to kind of like see now, maybe not the best of wins. Loss against Texas A&M. Okay. Loss against Pitt. Loss against Maryland. Loss against Auburn. I'll give you that. Win against Kentucky. Okay. Loss against Michigan State. I'm not going to hold you to that. Loss against Oregon. My opinions on Oregon are a little shaky. And like, I'm not the most high on Oregon. Loss at Wisconsin. Okay. Loss against Indiana. Okay, so we can kind of say that this is not necessary. Like at this point in the season, we're kind of like saying, okay, they're not like an elite team whatsoever. Then they go on and win against Purdue. I'm like, okay, cool. String together wins against Iowa and Penn State. Okay, go basically loss, win, 3 game losing streak, 2 game winning streak. Now they're playing at Indiana. Ohio State is just really inconsistent. And for me, like I know the moniker is if you're like on a streak, the tournament's going to give it to you. But just with how inconsistent they've been, they've had some abysmal losses. A loss to Northwestern 70-49. That's embarrassing. That's that is like that's embarrassing in my book. That's an embarrassing loss. You lose at Nebraska. That's an embarrassing loss in my opinion. You lose like those are like the like truly like embarrassing losses in my mind. Maybe a loss at UCLA, not the best. But then there's like the win against Purdue, but that's earlier in the season. The win against Kentucky, early in the season. From what I'm seeing right now, with granted, they were able to get a win against USC and against Nebraska. I need to see more from Ohio State, in my opinion. I need to see a win at Indiana, and I need to see a really good run in the Big Ten tournament. I'm just not necessarily sold on Ohio State because if we're using the what are you doing recently right now, we can't be pointing to like all the way back in November saying, oh, look at this win, or all the way to the beginning of conference play, which is basically, okay, we're starting the season again, really. If we're like, that's how we kind of view conference play. Okay, like it's season 2.0 now. if we're pointing to the beginning of the season conference play, saying, look at that win against Purdue, if we're pointing to all the way back to 2024, saying, look at that win against Kentucky, I'm saying you're not doing enough right now. And that's why I'm not necessarily high on the Ohio State Buckeyes, and I need to see more from them.
Yeah, I'm inclined to agree, especially sitting at 17 and 13. I know they're kind of around our benchmark at 500 in conference play, but they're going to need to show out. They're going to need to beat some big names in that Big Ten tournament. So they're
Yeah.
either going to need to win or beat some big names. So this next team, depending on who you talk to, they're on the bubble. Some say not. I want to know your thoughts. I have my opinions. I don't think this is a bubble team. I don't think they deserve to be anywhere near the bubble. But Villanova, what are your thoughts on that for me? I know how I feel. I'll explain how I feel in a bit, but I'm gonna let you. What are your thoughts on?
The fuck? With Villanova?
Yeah,
Hang on, wait.
some
We
people
we
have
we
them as a
we,
bubble
we
team.
hang on, wait. We're talking about like that team in Pennsylvania, right?
Yes.
We're talking about hang on, they like the big they got like that big V as their logo or something like that. Like
Yes.
is that who we're talking about right now? Villanova in the year of our Lord 2025. We're talking about Villanova right now?
Yeah. It's currently sitting at sixth in the Big East.
How the hell can you Xavier's not confirmed in. How the hell are we putting Villanova in right now? That's my question. Is that if we can put Villanova in at this point, we might as well just put in Georgetown,
Yeah.
because I know that might be like a little bit okay. Early season loss, Columbia, ugly. St. Joseph's, ugly. UVA, abysmal.
Yeah.
Maryland, not a good loss. All right, let's go back into conference play. Georgetown lost. Lost to Providence.
And it wasn't even close.
Wasn't even a close matchup. UConn wasn't even close. Georgetown, their season's over now. Like legit, they're waiting for the tournament to start. Uh-huh. No. No. You need to win out, in my opinion. You need to win out. You shouldn't even be sniffing the tournament right now. That's my point.
A lot of people are saying that they're like, oh, they're gonna pull an NC State. I don't see anything in this Villanova team. They're kind of a one-man army with Eric Dixon, but he can't do it all. In my opinion, I think they're a first-round exit in the Big East tournament. I think they're a first-round exit in the Big East tournament. They're either going to end up in the NIT or whatever that, tournament is, because the Big East and Big 12 threw a fit, more teams didn't get in. So,
And I want to say this, for my definition of a bubble team is you can lose you can get in the tournament and not win your conference tournament.
yeah.
Like I think UNC needs to win a couple tournament games, but I think like they don't need to win the tournament to get in.
Yeah.
For Villanova, yes, in theory they can get in. They need to win every single, like, okay, if you want to use that as a bubble, like, okay, if they win if they win out in the uh Big East tournament, they're in. Well, no shit. I mean, yeah, of course, but like I'm operating under the assumption that they're not going to win the whole thing, and I need to tell them, okay, you can win like two games and you're good enough for me. You can win one game and that's good enough for me. For Villanova, they need to win every game for me. Maybe you can make the argument, okay, say they make it to the final in the Big East and they like lose by 1 point to St. John's. Okay, sure, but like that's an outlier. I'm just saying it's very unlikely for them to get
Yeah.
in unless they win out.
Yeah. The next few are in the SEC, and they currently do not match our metrics. And I want to see if would we let them in based on resume, or are we standing by our metrics on this one, the Gareth and Aiden metrics? So
Yeah.
first one's Georgia. Georgia's seen as a bubble team in several. CBS has them on the bubble, I believe. They might be next four out. But different ones, like I had Fox saw Georgia was on the bubble. What do you think about Georgia? They're currently sitting at God knows how deep in the SEC. They're 19-11, but then they're 7-10 in conference play. They've got. I don't think they really have any big. I'm looking back through conference play to see if they have any marquee wins. I don't think they do. Oh wait, they do have a marquee win, Aiden.
Yeah.
But we're looking back to 2024 for this one. They beat St. John's by 3. But my
I
opinion
mean,
about college
they
basketball
beat
is
Florida
they did
recently,
beat Florida as well. They did beat Florida recently.
very
Those are
recently.
really their only two marquee. I think for Georgia, I think they're in a scenario for me. Like if they're gonna make it, they need to go on a run in the SEC tournament. They don't necessarily have to win it, but I think they need to be winning 3+ games in the SEC tournament to make it for me. Maybe 4.
Yeah, I'm gonna be real. After after Vanderbilt, it's hard for me to like really have extend my love for the SEC. Honestly, like I'm kind of capping it almost at Mississippi. Like saying Auburn to Mississippi State are guarantee like I don't know. Georgia's just a bridge too far for me, and Arkansas is a bridge too far for me. You need to win out, in my opinion. Like 7-10 in conference play right now, we can
Come
do
on.
better. We can do better.
Yeah. Yeah,
Like,
and that fits our metric as well. Because like we said, we've talked before, teams where they're within one game of 500, you can see the argument. Even in like other Power Fives, like you maybe not the ACC this year, but like saying like the Big 12, you could see the argument for a team that's 8-9 in conference play in an
yes,
average year for a Power Five conference. But if you're starting to, like we said, starting to get 2, 3, 4, in Texas' case, 5 games off of 500, that's ridiculous
yeah.
that they're even considered a bubble team.
Like if you want to be
Now,
in if you want to make the excuse, oh, it's a hard conference. Okay, well then you're not playing good in your conference.
yeah,
Dude,
one
like I don't
final.
care. I don't care if you're playing if your conference constitutes the freaking Napoleonic Empire, uh, some freaking alien species, and the you're playing like the United States in the year 3000. Okay, like if you're playing like God consistently in your conference, you need to show up or you need to get the hell out of that conference. You can't just get into the biggest conference of all time and then say, "Oh, we can get away with being 5-12 in conference play because it's a big conference and there's a lot of good teams." Okay, yeah, there's a lot of good teams. You're not one of them.
And like, okay, so CBS has Oklahoma in. I'm
Yeah, you
sorry,
know what?
no team that wins 5 conference games should be in. If I
Nah,
can count your conference wins on one hand, you should not be in. I'm sorry. I don't care. It's the SEC. Okay, if you win the SEC tournament, maybe, but you should not
yeah,
be.
if you win the SEC tournament, yes, you should be an automatic in, but that's because you win the SEC tournament. And that's the rule for every single conference. I'm sorry. If your excuse for only winning 5 conference games is we're in a really hard conference with a lot of good teams, my excuse for not putting you in is you're not a good team.
Yeah, I don't care. 5 wins in conference play is 5 wins. You're still ass. Like DePaul, like last year's DePaul is still DePaul in the SEC. That's still bad.
Hey, yo, don't slander my baby DePaul like that.
I'm sorry, but if your conference record be looking like DePaul, I don't you you could
Does
have
it
a
pass
college
the
team playing.
DePaul check?
Does it pass the DePaul check? DePaul currently has 3 wins in the Big East. I'm sorry. If you're staring down the barrel, even 6 wins. Like if I can count your wins I mostly
If
went
I can
here.
look at your conference win-loss record and feasibly imagine DePaul having that same record in the Big East,
We have issues. We have
like what if
issues.
I told you DePaul went 6-11 in Big East play? Would you say that sounds like DePaul?
That with how this year's DePaul played, I'd say yes. I'd say yes. That
Now,
could
if
be
I
this year's.
told you DePaul went 13-4 in the Big East, you would say that's not
No.
DePaul. Case proven. Point proven.
Adding it to the Aiden and Gareth palm, the DePaul test. Could DePaul feasibly go this the Big East? Is this DePaul or is this Marquette? We'll call it the game. Is this DePaul or is this just Marquette? If you could see Marquette going this record, you're in the tournament. If you could see DePaul going this record, oh. So
I'm a
what
team
one
that went 7-10 in conference play. Am I DePaul or am I Marquette?
DePaul probably.
You have just eliminated Georgia.
You just eliminated Georgia.
Point proven.
One final bubble team I've been hearing about. I don't know how you feel about this. You and I had big feelings about this conference last year, and them getting 4 teams that all got bounced in the round of 64. How are you feeling about San Diego State? They're currently at 20 and 8. They're currently at 20 and 8. So they definitely have a decent record.
Hang on.
Um,
Let me pull them up, right? Let me pull everything up.
they're currently
All
slating
right.
5 Mount. Okay, I'm sorry. If five Mountain West teams are slated to make it, fuck no.
Yeah, Boise. They Joe Lenardi had Boise State in over UNC.
All right, let's take a look at this Boise State schedule. They lost to Gonzaga, which is they beat Creighton. Okay, can I preface this? Can I preface something before we continue?
You can
Creighton's
preface it.
Creighton's kryptonite every fucking year is Mountain West teams. Creighton every year. Creighton last year. People arguing for them to get a 1 seed last year. They went 0-3 against the Mountain West last year as a possible 1 seed. I think Creighton is just playing a bunch of teams that they used to be in the conference with in the Mountain West. I think this is just obligatory games. They beat Creighton. Okay, okay, they did beat Houston. They did beat Houston.
Mm-hmm.
But like you said, Aiden, if we're having to go back to fucking 2024 to go, this is the last time they had a good win. Like, I'm sorry. This team should not be in. If we have to go back to 2024 to be like, oh, this team should be in, no. Like, yes, you're handling business and conference play, but for me, this is a no. This is a no. And yes, they've played we played the cards you're dealt. I'm sorry. A mid-major conference should not be getting 5 teams. I could maybe see the argument for 4.
A
But in
mid-major
reality, no more than
conference should not be getting more bids than the ACC, and I will die on this hill. I don't care how biased you call me. I don't care if you say, Aiden, you're an ACC shill. Aiden, you're just saying this because UNC's having a down year and you don't want to see a Mountain West. Yeah, fuck yeah. I don't want fucking Boise State, whose freaking classic conference wins are winning against Air Force. Riveting. Losing to San Diego State, 64-47. Ew. Freaking losing to Colorado State, 75-72. I'll give you that one. At New Mexico, 84-65. Your leading scorer, points per game, is a guy named Tyson Degenhart. He looks like me. I'm not even kidding. Look at him. He just looks like a regular frat douchebag with a mid part.
Mark my words. If you let 5 Mountain West teams in this NCAA tournament, they're all
No
getting
diss to
bounced
this dude.
fucking
No
first
diss
round.
to this dude. I don't mean like I don't mean to cramp on your style, man. But I don't know.
I
I'm smelling some bullshit on this one. I got New Mexico and Colorado State, maybe Utah State. I'm sorry. I'm capping it at Boise State and San Diego State. You don't need more than that. Now, of course, if they win the conference tournament, they deserve to get in. That's not what we're talking about right now. Like, of course, if they do win their conference tournament, they should get in. And if they get in because they win their conference tournament and somehow UNC is snubbed, you're not going to see me complaining. Because you know what that means? What does that mean, Gareth? It means UNC didn't win the ACC tournament.
For me, this is how I go about the West. This is my logic for the Mountain West.
What's your Mountain
If
West logic?
oh, people aren't gonna like this.
Ooh.
No, they aren't gonna like this at all. For a lot of these teams, we're having to reach back to 2024, and I know I always say, I'll admit this, for certain conferences in college football, and people complain about them getting playoff spots, you got to play their hand you're dealt. And for the most part, these Mountain West teams have played the hand they're dealt. Boise State has got ranked wins. Well, now they're ranked. Now these teams are ranked. San Diego State has got ranked wins. Well, you look at Utah State. Utah State. Let's see. A full schedule here. Utah State has a ranked win over San Diego State, beaten St. Mary's, who is ranked. Okay, at least that one happened in 2025. Let's see. Okay, I understand why some of these teams are in. Colorado State, projected in because they've handled business in this conference. Do they have any ranked wins? Take a little look. Colorado State, have they beaten anyone ranked? No. Okay, controversial take here. I'm taking 4 teams out of the Mountain West.
Mm-hmm.
I'm taking New Mexico,
Mm-hmm.
Utah State,
Mm-hmm.
Boise, and San Diego.
Okay.
Sorry, Colorado State.
Ooh.
I'm taking 4.
Why?
You
Why?
don't have the rest. The rest of
They're
those
number
teams,
two. They're number two in conference.
yeah, but for me, it's the resume. Also, I wouldn't be upset if they let all 5 in, but I will just say, mark my
If you,
words, they are all getting bounced in the round of 64. They're all getting bounced. I don't care what you say. This happens every year. Oh, the Mountain West is back. The
Yo, the
Mountain West
Mountain
hasn't.
West is actually elite. If you don't know the greatness that is the Mountain West Conference in basketball, I don't think you're a real college
Okay,
basketball fan.
I'll give you the Mountain West usually has 2 solid teams. Okay, the Pit. Okay, yes, the Pit. I'll give you New Mexico and the Pit. All right, I'll give you that.
Yeah,
Classic
I love the
Arena,
Pit. I love the Pit.
historically great team. Okay, I'll give you New Mexico State. Or excuse me,
Hmm.
New Mexico. New Mexico, I'll give you that every year. Every year I'll give New Mexico, even on a down year. New Mexico,
Yeah,
great team, great atmosphere. Love the Pit. Colorado State, and then maybe other one team. But Mark Meyer, every fucking year they get bounced first round. Okay, I'm gonna exclude the first 4. Every year they're at least all gone by the round of 32. Like The Atlantic 10 has better results, and we don't afford them the same leniency. If we treated the Atlantic 10 by like this, people would be howling if we give the
Yes,
Atlantic 10 this treatment. So that's it for me. Mark my words. They're all getting bounced first round. And if they're not all bounced first round, they're all gone by the second round. That's my take. They're all gone by the second round.
indeed.
Now, maybe after further inspection, I'll change my mind. I'll let you know before the bracket starts. I'll let you know if I've changed my mind because I think, New Mexico could be something special. I might add one exception being New Mexico. That might be my one exception, but the rest of those four bounced by the second round. So that's all I'll say on that. Shall we move on to UFC?
Absolutely. Hang on 1 second. Alrighty. Alrighty, boys. It is UFC 313 in Las Vegas, Nevada. Looks like it's going to be a pretty solid card. But mainly, I wanted to talk about two fights that I think are going to be very important, and that is going to be the main event and the co-main event. Our co-main event has been rescheduled and saved. We have Justin Gaethje versus Rafael Fiznev from Azerbaijan. Sorry, I took a Soviet Union politics class, and I still can't fucking pronounce half these names. But Justin Gaethje, really dominant lightweight contender. Has been at the this. He's kind of been at this level for a while, starting to become a little bit of a gatekeeper. He was supposed to fight, I believe, Dan Hooker, if I'm not mistaken. I might just be completely off right now, but that fight got canceled, and Rafael had to take it on short notice. Um, I really like this matchup for Gaethje, especially considering the fact that he's had a full camp. I think he's going to most likely take this win, especially considering the fact that most of like the lightweight division has kind of been just like capped off by Justin Gaethje and Dustin Poirier. Both of them have done a really good job of like kind of stopping the talent from rising to the top, which has kind of put the lightweight division in a little bit of limbo, but I could see that limbo continuing, and I got Justin Gaethje winning this one. But it's time for uh, the main event predictions. We got the light heavyweight title for it's the title fight for the light heavyweight championship. We got Alex Pereira versus Magomed Ankalaev. If there is a fighter that can take down Alex Pereira, it is going to be Magomed Ankalaev. But there are like so many like I'm looking at the line and the Vegas lines right now. 1 second it's going for Alex Pereira, the other second it's going to Magomed Ankalaev. For like a week, Alex Pereira was considered the underdog in this fight. And he, like as I mentioned before, has been on an absolute historic run for the light heavyweight title. He has just had. I need to count this out. He has had three title defenses when it comes to the light heavyweight title, and he's coming off one of the greatest years in UFC history with his legendary 2024 run. Alex Pereira, elite striker, probably one of the best strikers in the light heavyweight division. But so he's not the best when it comes to grappling. And what a lot of people are seeing right now is Magomed Ankalaev. He is good with the takedown, and he's better at grappling than most light heavyweights. But the thing is, with Magomed Ankalaev, he also has a very strong striking game. And Magomed has also said that he wants to keep the fight standing. So this is kind of putting a lot of people in a weird position right now because Alex Pereira's grappling is absolutely abysmal. I know he's a black belt in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, but all he does, he basically pulls Aiden moves. If you're a black belt and you're pulling Aiden moves where you just kind of like put a fake guillotine on somebody and kind of pray for the round to end, you're not an elite grappler. You're just you're literally a white or blue belt. These are moves that I do when I am like legit just running out of like gas in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. I'll just grab somebody's head and just kind of like hold on for dear life and then just wait for like a minute to pass, and by then I'm already like I'm just trying to like recover my strength from how much like I've been beaten to oblivion. That's what Alex Pereira does unironically. It's not a good look. But Magomed Ankalaev, so Alex Pereira's grappling, like let's say, is right here, and Magomed Ankalaev's grappling is like right here. If we were to take like these fighters' striking ability, Alex Pereira's striking would be right here, and Magomed Ankalaev's striking would be like right here. So Magomed Ankalaev is not as good at striking as Alex Pereira is, but the distance between Magomed Ankalaev's striking and Alex Pereira striking is shorter than the distance between Alex Pereira's grappling and Ankalaev's grappling. So a lot of people are saying that means Ankalaev is the better overall fighter. Um, I just keep on going back and forth when it comes to like how this fight's going to go. Um, uh, for some reason, ESPN's saying that Magomed Ankalaev usually fights in the orthodox stance. I could have sworn I've seen most of his fights kind of happen a little bit in southpaw, which is going to be interesting to see with how Alex Pereira kick checks him. That's going to be a very big determining factor of this. I don't think Alex Pereira is going to be kick checking him that much, though. So Alex Pereira's kick checks are like really good, but if he overuses them too much, I can very easily see Magomed Ankalaev getting tired of this and go like, okay, we're going to take this fight to the ground right now. And that would not be good for Alex Pereira. Freaking Israel Adesanya, when he was fighting Alex Pereira, was able to take him down like pretty easily. Alex Pereira is not a good grappler. He's an amazing kickboxer. But like, which is it's very ironic to see a Brazilian that is horrible at grappling, but that's just kind of Alex Pereira's style of fight. Um, there's like, I keep on going back and forth. I see a lot of breakdowns, a lot of very smart people in the YouTube MMA space that I see and I respect, and they're very split on it. But in a world of crazy shit, listen, there's a lot of crazy shit going on. Shout out to the WWE. I know it's fake. John Cena just fucking turned heel for some reason. And if you don't know what that means, John Cena became a bad guy. We're living in crazy times right now. Anything can happen. Freaking your old childhood heroes can turn into the person that they hate the most, and teams that you support can and think deserve to get into the NCAA tournament can go 0 for 4 in their pivotal matchups that they need to win. Shout out Wake Forest. When I look at this fight, Alex Pereira needs to get a lot of shit like done and like settled before he can like beat Ankalaev. But I will say this. Alex Pereira was was smart, kind of a dick, for booking a fight against a Muslim in the middle of Ramadan. Not gonna lie, dick move, but I like it. So Alex Pereira. So I can see this going one of either ways. Either one, Ankalaev gets the power of his Ramadan fast and decides that he's going to take this fight to the ground and basically. I think he would knock Alex Pereira out in the ground and pound if he were to take it to the ground. Or Alex Pereira plays it smart, keeps his distance, and Ankalaev just decides to commit to his prior statements where he's like, I want to keep it standing. If it keeps standing, I think this is going to be a very close decision win. But if Ankalaev takes it to the ground, I do believe Alex Pereira will be knocked out by a TKO. What I think is more likely, I want to say I think Alex Pereira is going to continue his streak, and I have him retaining the belt at light heavyweight. So I guess that's going to be my prediction. Once again, I'll say this: I am very bad when it comes to prediction accuracy, so we'll see how it is. I kind of made a little bit of a comeback when it came to UFC 312. Hopefully, I go two for two on this one. And once 314 rolls around, I'm gonna try to expand and like do a whole card or a whole fight night so I can get my numbers up in prediction accuracy because I've been falling off a little bit. But that's my brief summary of the two big events at UFC 313. And yeah, Gareth, you have anything that you want to like talk about, like anything in like soccer or baseball?
We can touch on college baseball. The only thing I will say is Ramadan. Some of these people during Ramadan can kind of turn it on. I mean, last year NC State's Mohamed Diarra during Ramadan, like games of his life in
Yeah,
March Madness and the AC tournament, games of his life. Hey,
absolutely.
NC State didn't lose until after Ramadan ended, so who knows? Maybe
Yeah.
Mohamed Diarra is getting some of that Ramadan soup. I don't know. On to college baseball. Aiden and I figured we quickly touch on it. Obviously NC State not having the start of the season like the Jacks Baseball Classic a few months ago was not how they wanted to go. I mean, they went 0 for 3 in that game. That caused them to fall to, I think, they went on a 4-game losing streak after that. But since then, NC State has bounced back. They're on a 4-game win streak heading into a weekend series with Wright State. Hopefully, they can right the ship. Weekend sweep will get us up to 11-5. Will get us back on track to make not Omaha, to make the NCAA tournament. Omaha's for State 8 and above.
Hmm.
Like 3 wins, I think they'll get it together. I think it's just NC State has a really young roster this year, and obviously a lot of NC State's players end up getting drafted. A lot of our freshmen end up being one and done. So it's a lot of rebuilding, and we see this every year. NC State starts out ranked, they go unranked after a few bad losses, but then they go on a tear. They may not sweep every series, but they'll win most of their ACC series. They'll drop a game here and there, and after a few weekends of going 2-1, they're back in the top 25. But I think right now, falling out of the top 25 was what was best for a lot of these freshmen. Take the pressure off, let them learn to just play the game and let them be, rather than having the pressure of being ranked top 25. From here on out, I think they just need to carry momentum, beat Wright State, and then take their momentum into that next series. So, anything else you want to add on to Carolinas?
Carolina remains undefeated in baseball right now, completing the sweep against Stony Brook and getting a solid win on Tuesday night against Coastal Carolina. That game went to 11 innings, and UNC was able to get the win off of one run, completing the game uh, with UNC winning 5-4. This weekend, UNC is going to be playing Stanford in a series. Stanford rocking at 11-1. This is the first conference matchup between the two teams. I'm pretty excited to see how this one turns out. I'm going to be like pretty upfront. I'm not 100% familiar with Stanford baseball, especially considering the fact that they have just joined the ACC. And I was never really that familiar with Pac-12 baseball as much as ACC baseball. But I'm excited to see how Stanford plays in this conference series. And I'm excited to see how UNC plays. I've have nothing but positive things to say. They've been continuing their winning ways, and I could see them doing a sweep. It's in the cards, but I'm going to be honest. I don't think it's likely. I think UNC might slip up one of these next three games, but we'll see with that. They are in the top four right now with Arkansas, Tennessee, and who's number one?
Oh wait, no, it's not.
Wasn't it? I thought I saw it was like Oklahoma. Was it Oklahoma?
I don't remember. It's so hard to access the rankings for college
Yeah,
baseball.
no, the rankings, like, I look at them and I don't even. Okay, LSU. LSU's number one, Tennessee's number two, Arkansas's number three, UNC number four, Georgia at five, Florida State at six, Florida at seven, Oregon State at eight, Virginia at nine, and Oregon at 10. And UNC was able to get a top 25 win on Tuesday against number 24, Coastal Carolina. So, yeah.
Yeah. I will say with college baseball, my general rule of thumb is the California schools are pretty good. Like any of the UC schools are good. So I think Stanford, Stanford's usually good at those. I mean, they can be good at revenue sports, but I think they're also particularly really good at those non-revenue sports. So that's what I will say. I mean, I do think, like I said, NC State baseball can turn around. I think it's just a young roster, and they just need to get their feet under them. Every year for like the last 5 years, this is just kind of what's happened with this squad. Just generally since our last appearance in Omaha in 2013, that's kind of, rocketed us up into the more successful college baseball teams. This is just how it goes, college baseball, they're allowed to have one and done. So, that's really all I got to say for that. College baseball, with conference play starting soon, Aiden and I might go into more of an in-depth prediction for each conference, but a lot of college baseball, there's like kind of a high barrier to entry because it's hard to find some of like the stats for the stuff if you're outside of Power Five. So Aiden and I may just do like a Power Five thing for that, or it might be Power Four for college baseball. I don't think Big East has power conference privileges in baseball.
Mm-hmm.
So from I think college baseball and that the Big East respect is literally St. John's and Marquette, and that's it. So,
Yeah.
um, that being said, nothing really in soccer. The only thing I will say is they've now confirmed relegation for the USL League. It's not just proposed; it is now confirmed. So that's the only other real thing about soccer.
Charlotte got the win
Um,
over Atlanta. Saw that.
Charlotte,
They were pressing four on the offense, Charlotte was, and that actually kind of worked out well for them. So, like, I kind of picked up that a little bit. Uh, Able to shut out Atlanta. I was pretty proud of that win. And I'm starting to pick up a little bit. I like the offensive attack on Charlotte when we were like pressing four earlier in the game, and like I saw that same attack a little bit later in the game when they were trying to like kind of gun in extra time. but it didn't pan out. But overall, pretty good game.
Yeah, and I was only able to listen to a little bit of it. It's just I think we finally got Wilfred Zaha settled in, and just kind of the press that Dean likes to run. Like you picked up on that. It's just, I like pressing. It's kind of like running a full court press in basketball. You know, these teams like Atlanta, where they have a lot of talent, they, where they succeed usually is they succeed in like keeping possession, and I don't like just ceding possession to the other team.
Yeah,
I like pressing, going after it. I mean, in soccer, FIFA has now allowed you to go have 5 subs instead of 3. So I think that's going to benefit teams that's not a new ruling, but I think allowing for that ruling a few years ago to allow 5 substitutions has allowed teams to kind of shift towards, these high press offenses because, you can substitute people out more because, they're going to be tired running for 90 minutes and press the entire time. It's like when you hear about in basketball and they run a full court press. What do those teams usually do in the off season? They don't run offense. They don't practice any offensive drills. They don't shoot. They run the entire offseason. They
yeah,
just run.
yeah.
So, but like I said for soccer, I'll probably have something more in depth. Only thing I will say for that's all I'll say for European soccer. But um, I'll do a quick hockey shout out. I mean, Hurricanes sitting at second, currently looking at the number two seed in the Metropolitan, 4 seed overall. Looking good. They play the Boston Bruins tomorrow, so I may decide to be provocative. Who knows? I
Could
may
be,
wear a Hurricanes jersey out and about. Who knows?
maybe.
We'll see. But the only other shout out I'll give, Providence, currently sitting at 6th in the nation for college hockey. Um, Going to the Big East tournament this weekend. They do have a night game against BU tomorrow, but that doesn't really affect the seeding. From what I've heard, so for those who don't know, college hockey uses a system similar to the BCS, where it's a computer system based on ranking. So unless Providence like royally fucks up, they're guaranteed for the NCAA tournament for hockey. Um, I'd like to see a Hockey East tournament win, but I don't think we'll. With how good Boston College has been this year, Boston College has only lost like twice, and they've played like 30 games. So I don't foresee Boston College really losing. But who knows? Survive and advance. Anything can happen in tournaments. So I'm gonna give that shout out. But I think that'll do it for us. We'll probably next week another episode. We'll touch on some college basketball. Definitely have a bit more in depth look. Next weekend's episode is probably gonna be more of a conference tournament thing for college basketball. So who knows?
Yes,
We'll keep you
yes.
guys updated. So thank you guys for listening, and we will see you all next week. And keep an eye out for those shorts. We've been starting to post some more shorts. We're chopping up our episodes, make them a bit more digestible. This
Hmm.
episode will probably be 3 clips. The last episode was only 2 clips just because it's a little shorter. But this episode will probably be split up into 3 or 4 clips. So keep an eye out for that if you don't like listen to us yap for 3 hours straight. If you break, need some ads in between. So all right, thank you.